And we're finally live. Yes, we are back for our first live episode in 6 months, and it's had some technical difficulties, but we are here for our first live episode of Fleetcast in forever. And I am joined by the lovely host of Fleet Spotlight, Kris. Hello, Kris. And
All
I am
right.
joined by Endy, who is finally back from his summer
Hello again.
sabbatical. How are we
Yes,
both? How are we
thank you.
both doing?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this for a few months now. The sabbatical was absolutely necessary, and I feel a lot better. And thank you to everyone who's probably been thinking about me, and to those of you who've probably forgotten about me, boo, hiss. But I love you anyway.
Yes, these are the type of things that happen. But yes, we are finally back for our first episode reviewing, and we've only got what, 3 episodes left of the animated series before that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. The series has officially ended.
Yep. This is the pre-penultimate episode.
Yeah. So but things have changed in the last 6 months. We've around the
Yeah.
fleet, around the community. Kris is now the big bad ass of podcasting, aren't you, Kris?
Mm.
Eh, I try. I mean, to be fair, it would be a pretty rubbish podcast if the writers and GMs and whatever didn't come on. So I don't like taking credit. I think it's them. Because if
Yes,
they didn't give me stuff to talk about,
but yes,
I would just
you
be
are definitely hurting a lot of
Yes.
people at the moment, and I really just want to say this on stream that I'm thankful for the fact that you're doing this,
Yes.
because it wouldn't have happened without you. So
Total agreement there.
yeah, so
oh,
Thank
whether
you for
whether he likes it or not, he's
stepping
getting
up
some
there.
praise.
eh,
Yes. Thank you
thanks.
for stepping up. Thank you for taking a more active role. We
Yes,
really do need it.
but tell us, you've got an episode out next week, so do you want to tell us quickly about that episode before we get into this episode properly?
Um, it is. I can't remember now.
And
I've done
it's
quite.
Emu.
It's Emu.
It's
Yes,
Emu.
Emu's talking
Uh,
about a post where we'll play a nice little game about slang words and we discuss posts. To
Okay.
be fair, I do put in the Discord normally the week before I do link the post to it and then start talking more about the episode because I want to put the post first and then the episode so
Yes.
you can have a read along.
mhm.
So if you join the Discord or I can post it on socials as well, join them and keep an eye out for posts and stuff.
Yes, it's gonna be an
And
interesting one, I think,
yes,
because it's
yes.
it's the first non-Trek one, isn't it?
Is
Sure
that
is my,
one
my memory's
or is
crap.
mine?
Yours isn't yet.
Right.
There's a few more in the bank because I've just did a block of them
Right.
and my mind's just totally went.
Fair.
Um,
Well, no,
so
it's the non-Trek side that I was more thinking about is, like is that
yes,
yeah.
yours won't be the first non-Trek one, Andy, but yours will be the first non-Trek, non-X-Men one.
Okay. The first but technically it is the second one inspired by Marvel. Um so we can get into Power Rangers and how that came about
Don't spoil it,
at some
man.
It's
okay.
fine. It's
Well,
fine. We
I'm
no,
only
can.
joking. I'm only
everybody
joking.
knows. Besides, I will always push for Solar Force and um to Nerdy Up North there. Uh I don't think he's fully in charge. I still say Becca's in charge, but that's just me.
No,
He's
Becca's
he's
still in charge,
he's my
very
he's
much.
he, Paul. He's my minion. I have a minion, and his name is Kris or Dave,
Yeah.
depending on who you speak to.
Yes.
But that's
And
okay. I
I
like
mean,
I like my little minion. He's one of my besties, and he's never. I just hope it never changes.
I mean,
I won't.
I'm one of your minions at least.
You are. Everyone, anyone
See,
who's involved in
see,
Fleetcast is my minion. But
there we go.
Chris is my OG bestie, and I
There we
will
go.
always say that he's my OG bestie. But yes, getting into this episode.
Yes.
Okay, first, I think we need to talk about the fact that this is possibly one of my favorite episodes that we've come into in this series. I know season
Yes.
two of the animated series is a very short one. It's only got what, 8 episodes? Six?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, I
It's a
think it's six.
very, very, very small cirrus. And Endy, why is it a small cirrus? Because you probably know this. I haven't done any research or anything on this bit.
Actually, this is one of the things that I am a little ambiguous on, but essentially it's that they were building the syndication package
Right.
for a cartoon. And it ended up that either CBS or one of the other companies involved didn't really want to have it syndicated.
Okay.
And when that didn't happen, and when phase 2 didn't happen, and when the first plan for the movie didn't happen, the money ran out, and you can't run a TV show without money.
It's weird having Trek having money issues.
Right?
It's a bit awkward.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, yes. I think it's one of those ones that Trek just kind of goes in circles of having money, not having money, having money, not having money. I think it's one of those ones when it just literally goes around in circles, and I don't think it's ever kind of gonna stop.
Unfortunately not. And because especially with such a long-running series as Trek and such a long-running franchise, it comes down to where the investment is and who wants to invest, and well, here we sit.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, I think it's just one of those ones where it's never really gonna change. It's always gonna be kind of rolling around. But what did you think of going into this episode, Kris? Because obviously, Endy's seen it. You didn't until we watched it an hour ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very recently, so it's still very fresh in my mind. Yeah,
fair enough.
I did like it. I always think these episodes are short though; they're like 23 minutes long. But I do like that you see a lot of different alien species.
Yes.
A lot of weird and wonderful ones. Even these ones where the yellow people with the pug faces, they wouldn't have that on the show.
No, and they couldn't have done the hands.
Yeah,
they couldn't have done the hands either.
Weird long finger things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think.
I mean, they could have, but it would have looked horrible.
It would have looked like it would have looked like something from the trailer review episode that we did yesterday with Nerdy Up North. It would have very much looked like that. But yes, going into this episode, I felt very much by the end of it, I was a little bit annoyed because I felt this episode could have been a two-parter.
Agreed.
It could have literally been a two-parter, and I'm a little bit annoyed because this is the last episode of Chapel until the motion picture, like 5 years later when they've obviously got the money to make movies. But this episode starts with them visiting the planet Dramia to deliver medical supplies, and instantly, within the first minute, they immediately arrest Dr. McCoy for mass murder, which is like, you're like, huh? Hang on a minute. We've had no setup. We've had no... There's just nothing. It literally just leads into this within a minute of the episode.
Yep. That's definitely one of the things that I've noticed is that, this one had Kirk's opening, and I really feel like his opening log was probably cut short.
Yeah.
In between the scripting and what was actually spoken.
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit like that.
Because one line of going to the planet Dramia 3, a non-Federation world, McCoy has been here 19 years ago and has some experience with their medical procedures.
Yeah.
Just that done.
Yeah.
And that would have explained everything, or nearly everything at least. And then by saying, hey, he was here to cure a plague or to do an inoculation program. Actually what he was doing was inoculations. And then the plague happened.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into the episode.
Yeah, there is a lot of information literally in the first minute of
the
minute, and I was finding myself kind of very much like, what the hell is happening? Like, what is going on? Why is
very
all this happening
so.
very, 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 very quickly? And I think if this was done in live action, that wouldn't be the case. it would have
Yeah.
been very, very different. It would have been very much there would have been a slower approach. There would have been like the
Yeah.
whole like 5 minutes before
Very much so.
the opening titles, you would have had it. But I do very much like these aliens, and I do very much like the styling of them with the wiggly hands
Yes.
and that type of thing. This is the first time that we've seen this
Yes.
alien, isn't it?
The Dramians, yeah, it's the first and last time, sadly.
Yeah. Well, unless they reappear in lower decks, I don't know if they reappear. I didn't get that far into my researching, but it would be
I
interesting to
don't
see
know anything about that.
because I can just see how lower decks will approach these creatures. I can just see it, and I would love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't seem like bad people. They're
No.
just. The problem is that, I mean, looking at this episode, understand that I've seen it like 4 times.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it was in 1998 when I first ran across the animated series on tape. And, I was a kid then. It was the late 90s. Didn't particularly like it because it is very much a talking episode.
Yes.
It is a much slower episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that we were saying, Chris, when we were talking about it. Obviously, neither of us had video, and we were pottering around doing other things, but both of us were saying it's a slower episode, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all.
We have to have these filler episodes, and this isn't a bad filler episode. It's just
I don't even think this is filler. It's just slow.
I do think it's a filler episode. I think compared to some of the other previous episodes that we've kind of done, they've been a lot bigger. They've had a bit more buzz, and they've had something more to them. But this wouldn't have been out of place in a 2-parter or with a standard amount of episodes. If we were still doing, the Next Generation where we had 22 episodes, it would have been it would have been an amazing episode. It would have been fine. And no, I'm not going to beat you, Paul. Kris would have totally been 8 in 1998, and I would have been 10.
And I was, let's see, 13? Yeah.
And you would have still, and Paul would have still been what?
Yeah.
Paul would have been old enough to eat rocks, so
12.
I was a preteen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was 12 or 13 at the time that I first saw this.
That's it. And I think it's very, very different viewpoints. I think probably you've probably seen it several, as you said, you've seen it 4 different times. You've seen it at different stages of your life. What did you think of it now?
It has changed in my mind from being defeat snatched from the jaws of victory to standing on par with Measure of a Man.
Okay.
All right. And again, yes, I'm going back to a talky episode, but anyone who knows Next Generation, anyone who cares about Trek, Measure of a Man is up there as this is what Star Trek was. This is what it's about. And that's where this has changed to be in my mind. Okay. Is that same, thing. And I'll admit, probably in another 10 years, I might not feel the same way.
Yeah, and that's perfectly understandable. You were allowed to change your opinions.
Exactly. And I mean, I will admit, I'm a little bit, it may be the fact that, it is 2025 and we have the context for the allegory that we might not have had at that time.
Yeah, because obviously this it goes from him being arrested to us then finding out why he's being arrested. And obviously he is being arrested for supposedly creating a worldwide plague, which for anyone who is watching us knows that 4 years ago we did have a worldwide plague. So this is a bit of I don't want to say a trigger warning because I don't think we're going to comment too much on it. But there may be connotations with 2020 and potentially what happens in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Do
yes,
you know, actually, for this episode, do you know when you're on about it not being an action episode as well? Do you not think the pacing is a bit weird? Like, you get the mess of information at the start, and then you kind of get like, I don't know, it seems like they were running out of time, and then they would just say, "Oh yeah, I've got a stash of antibodies in the ship.
this is
I'll
this is
just
Yes.
I've got
Oh
loads of
yeah.
them in me drawer," kind of thing, where it
Oh yeah.
could have been strung out a
it
bit
could have
more,
been
and then we
it
could
could
have
have
had a
Yes.
cool
it could have been a
court case
two-parter.
scene.
This is 100% an
Yes.
episode that I think we need to talk about on Fleetcast rewrites, because I would
Yes.
100% rewrite this episode as a two-parter.
Absolutely.
100%.
Or just an hour long episode.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this I believe this is one of the ones that was not originally written for season 3 of the original series, because that's the thing. Up
Right.
till now, we've mostly been looking at episodes that are rewritten from season 3,
Yeah.
interspersed with the original animated. Um, this one is not,
No,
but
it doesn't have that vibe.
it's
It doesn't have that vibe. It has a completely different vibe.
exactly,
And I think
exactly.
possibly
And
that's why
the
it feels a bit disjointed, maybe, from what you
yes,
said, because it doesn't have that vibe of season 3. But I don't think it's a bad vibe.
right,
I think it's a very unique episode, and I would
yes,
class it as probably one of the animated series episodes, and which I kind of like. I
yes,
kind of like the fact that it's got this vibe that's completely different. It's not the original series. It's taken some of the beats from the original series, but it's a whole new beast.
yeah,
I love the fact that it's got the humor. There are some points in it, and
yes.
we obviously we'll discuss that when it gets to those points. But
Oh yes,
there are some humor beats to it, and I love that. I love the fact that it's got that.
yep. Um, but yeah, no, it's uh, yeah. The other thing about this with regard to the pacing, everyone has said that. I mean, we are not the first.
No.
Yeah.
Um, and every review that I see of it, whether from Trekkies, whether from media perspectives, otherwise, everyone comments on the pacing. And I wish that this has been one of the episodes that had a commentary on it,
Right.
because I would love to have heard from the people involved.
Yeah, it would have been a nice
You
one,
know?
but I don't necessarily think it's needed, because we can add our commentary. We are here to
Yes.
comment on it. But
Agreed. Agreed.
yes, so this episode carries on. Obviously, he's arrested. McCoy's arrested. He's obviously he's put in a prison, and he's taken to the Hall of Justice. And I'm just going to pop the imagery on the
Yes.
screen, because I really like this
Yes.
one. I really like the imagery for this, because it just shows how good they were able to make things
Yes.
in animation. You know,
Oh yeah. No,
that would have cost hundreds of thousands of pounds in CGI, but they were able to do it in probably 5 minutes with a
yes.
couple of ink strokes and be done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely love that image, and that's why I kind of pulled it out, was because it really is a well done drawing.
Yeah,
And then as you zoom in on it, they also, and I love that there are like people outside it as well, so
yeah,
you don't feel that this is just stark
no,
alien, whatever. It's, yes, there's a small population, but at least there are people.
yes, and then
There is
obviously,
life in it.
yeah, and then we kind of go inside and we go to the prison, and I love the layout of the prison, and the fact that it's
Yes.
done so simply, but it's got
Mhm.
it. I feel like it kind of reminds me of the silent orbs that they have in Vulcan. You know, is
Okay.
it the learning spears?
Yeah.
I'll have
I
to
think that's
find.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got they're kind of like
But
circular orbs where obviously each Vulcan child goes into, and it reminded me of that, and I was like, yeah, it's a
mhm.
very similar thing.
See, I
Yep.
thought it was dead simple because these race, the Dramian, they're called.
Yeah.
Dramians. Yeah, Dramians.
Yeah, everyone keeps saying, oh, they're famous for like really fast justice. So I thought, oh
Yes.
well, it's very basic because they only spend 5 minutes in there, then they're straight out.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yes.
I didn't even think of that. That's
Yes.
so good, Chris.
It's just, yeah. And the other thing about that scene is that that's where I get into the issue with the title of the episode, because
Right.
that is my one big issue with this episode. Other than, well, actually, no, my first big issue with the episode, I should say, and the first reason I kind of always was a little disappointed. Um, Obviously, we're Trekkies. Obviously, we are media people. We are literature people mostly. You two got the reference in the title, right?
No. I've literally watched it an hour ago. I haven't had time to process it. I'm literally taking it on face
Ah,
value.
okay. Kris, did you?
No. I'm
Okay.
excited to hear though.
The reference is Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Hmm.
In
The
other
Iron Maiden
words,
song.
when the mariner... Hmm?
The
Yeah,
Iron Maiden
well,
song.
yes. Okay,
I'm
yes,
taking the
but...
mic.
No. You're right, though, because it's the same story. The
Yeah.
idea is that to sailors, albatrosses are almost mythically holy creatures because they guide ships out of storms. And this guy, after being guided out of a storm, picks up his gun, shoots this albatross, and then is cursed by God to forever carry this weight that he has given himself.
Okay.
And I have a problem with that because I don't see the reference in this episode to that. I don't see
That's
that
100% why I
either
didn't
side.
get it.
Okay. Where to me, I could see an episode that would have a great title swap with this, and it would make sense.
Okay.
Next
Okay.
Generation's episode, Samaritan Snare.
Mm.
That's the episode with the Apocalypse.
Okay. Yeah.
But
I don't necessarily
I
think.
could see that one being called Albatross a lot easier than this, with the Apocalypse being the albatross around the neck.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh,
But I also don't think I think that hard into episode titles because I've been watching I've been watching the traitors for the last 2 weeks, and their episode
Okay.
titles are absolutely appalling. Like,
Fair.
we
Fair.
shouldn't go into episode titles because this will become a traitors podcast, and
Yeah. I haven't watched it, so
I'm emotionally damaged the fact that I don't have enough episodes this week. I've had to go back and watch season 1 of the American version, and I'm gonna say this now. What the hell? Like, they are not thinking properly.
no. But for me, it's just like it should have been named after the Good Samaritan, because that is the sort of parable, the story, the reference that we're making is that McCoy acted as a Good Samaritan and is being blamed for it.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, I could see that. I think maybe it's the 60s and this is kind of the vibe they were going for. This is kind of what they were doing around that time. It could be there was a famous band's song. It could have been anything. It could have been anything.
Yeah, I just sort of I'll be honest, I expect better of Star Trek. And I know that that's kind of weird to say, but I do, because, so often we get references like "For the world is hollow and I have touched the sky." We get, "The Conscience of the King." We get foreshadowing. We get how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child.
Yeah, I think sometimes
and I expect
too hard.
Yeah. So yes, that's my one issue is that, yeah. But McCoy immediately is like, but what if I did it?
Yeah, and I really kind of like that about him because he literally instantly was like, okay, I need to know what happened. I need to know if I did this. Right. And I've kind of got the ultimate respect for him for this. This is
yes.
He is being the good doctor.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty funny actually. McCoy's like, actually, did I kill all those people?
He literally had second doubts, and I was like, bless him. He is such a good egg. He is owning his mistake. More people should do that.
Yeah. Agreed. And that's the thing, is that he's like, so did I do it or not? I need to have this borne out.
Yeah.
And the thing is that at least Kirk is thinking, if I try to let them do this, they're just going to blame him no matter what. Their mind is not in trying to find the truth. It's in scapegoating Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, obviously going back to Chris's comment on the quick justice, they are very, very quick in their
Yes.
justice, and this kind of then becomes a very, very quick paced episode. You know, we quickly
Yes.
go from the planet, we get back up to the ship, we're back into the stars, and they are on their little adventure to this planet. You know,
Dremia 2.
Dremia 2. They are literally going very, very quickly, followed by. I don't want to say he's the bad guy because I don't feel like he
No.
is. He is
Deimos.
the bad.
He's
yeah.
not.
He's
Not the bad guy. In
yeah.
fact, I don't. In this episode, oddly enough, I don't see a bad guy.
No, I really don't see I don't see any bad guys.
It's that everybody is working against the past.
Yeah.
It's everyone against something that occurred 19 years ago.
Yeah, even when he's
Everyone
like
against the plague.
Even when he's like sneaking on the ship.
Yep.
I don't feel that he's a bad guy. I literally I think he's
Exactly.
very much
He's misguided.
Yeah, and he's trying to get his own justice, so to speak.
Exactly. And then we get into both one thing that bugs me with the episode and one that and a scene that I love.
Okay.
The thing that bugs me, auroras are related to stellar interactions with planetary magnetospheres. They are not sector-wide.
This is Endy Science Hour. Bring it on.
Yes. Okay. An aurora, such as the aurora borealis or aurora australis, is not something that can be seen in the middle of space. You don't pass through it.
No, but I am going to let them off with it because I think it's a pretty animation.
I agree.
I thought it was found in Flanders' kitchen.
No, it's in Skinner's kitchen.
Oh, Skinner's. Yeah.
Yep. At this time of day, at this time of year, contained entirely in your kitchen?
Yes.
May I see it?
No.
But yes. So I think they kind of get away with it because I like the pretty animation. It's a good animation. But we then get to the post-plague planet, and how they set the scene is amazing.
Well, let's jump in before we get there.
Okay.
Because, as you said, there are some funny moments, and let's get to the funny moment before we bring it down.
Okay.
Deimos sneaking aboard.
Yes.
And I love that you can almost see that they cut things out here because there's a ship coming from Dremia. Should I contact them? Yes, belay that order.
Yeah.
It's one of the few times that we ever see Kirk second guess himself.
Yeah.
But it feels a little abrupt. But then he's like, well, but what if they attack? Why would they attack? We didn't contact them. We don't know they're here. And besides, why would they attack when they can get aboard through the fact that we've accidentally left the shuttle bay open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the hangar doors aren't open. Yeah. But the hangar doors aren't open, sir. Ah, yes. Mr. Sulu, correct that little oversight, won't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was this is what I mean. This is why I don't feel like this was written for the original series because I don't remember this type of humor.
Yes. There are a few moments in original series of this kind of humor, but probably not in the episodes you watched.
Yeah, I've kind of watched very, very fast-paced ones, but this one I like, and
Yes.
and I love the scene when we get to the planet, the plague planet. It's just so well done.
Yes, and I mean, and again, I love that the Dramians kind of do have sort of a design philosophy that follows through their buildings, their ships, and even the destroyed parts of the plague planet. But I love the line from Deimos when they get to the planet. You know, because Kirk comments that it's not the most pleasant place he'd ever been. And Deimos comes back
Yeah.
with the absolutely chilling line. Plagues seldom leave behind fields of flowers, Captain.
Yeah,
And
I had shivers at that line. I was like, ooh.
yes. That's the one where it hit me. And the problem is that I hear that, and I am not British, obviously. I am not, any part of that. And yet somehow the words "on Flanders fields"
Yep,
just came through my head.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
100%. That is where my
And
brain went, and that is why I had the shivers, because obviously
mhm,
it kind of like it did get to me, because obviously
yeah,
we are British, and obviously November the
yes,
11th is a big thing for some people, and obviously I'm ex cadet forces, so it kind of
yeah,
it does resonate to me. I do visit the remembrance parades in all our cities and towns and villages. I do
yeah,
go to them on
yes,
and I do wear my poppy and stuff. So yeah,
yes,
it did hit
yes,
me, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
this is exactly, Chris has got his there.
yep. Chris Scott is there. Yep.
It is something that hit hard, and I did have
Yes.
that moment, and this is why it's such a good episode, because it did hit hard.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
it
And
just even that split, it was literally a 30-second scene, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
this is Trek, this is good Trek, and I love it.
yes. And actually, I want to jump into the chat quickly here. Uh, to Lee, why did the guy look like a yellow poodle? Because he's a Dramian. That's what they look like.
Mm.
Oh, heaven help us. Uh, and yes, Remembrance Day, and yeah,
It's all right, Chris. Lee got a bit confused between Fireworks Day and Remembrance Day. That's okay. There's a lot that goes on.
yes,
There is a lot that goes on in the first 2 weeks of like
November.
from October the 31st to the 14th. There is a lot that goes on in the UK.
yes,
We have Halloween, we have
yes,
Fireworks Day, we have Remembrance Day. That's totally fine.
yes.
This is why you have
Well,
people
yeah,
like me and Lee to keep you on track.
and then there's me where I just remember Gunpowder Day because of well, partly because uh my family who are from the UK uh are not Catholic, let's just say. And yeah, it's a the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then of course there's V for Vendetta. But yes.
Yes. But yes,
Um
get back to this episode. We then
yes.
instantly realise that there is someone watching, there is someone observing, there is
Yes.
a shadowy figure. And I love how they portrayed this so simply. It was so good.
Yeah. It's just he's a shadow.
Yeah.
Vroom,
Yeah.
and off he goes.
This is my
Um
favorite part in a second.
Is it your
okay,
favourite part, is it?
Yeah.
they get into the cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The cave is very well done as a set. And this is another thing that I've commented on a couple times, and I will continue to comment on, probably even into the original series and onward. I love how the animated series presents its sets as realistic and having a sense of space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even in the cave, you kind of get the idea of who's where and what's going on.
There's a lot of
And
depth to these scenes.
yes, yes. Um, so yeah, we get into there, and it's the only outsiders are the living, because it's the distinction is not between Dramian and not, it's the living and the dying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was
And
I was
then
like, oh, okay, this is another sentence that's kind of got me like, ooh.
Oh, wasn't it the
yes,
Living Dead or something? Or the Walking
Yeah,
Dead?
yes,
the
the
living
world
dead.
of the world of the living
This
and
is
the world of the Walking Dead.
this is where I was
Yeah.
100% hoping that we
Yeah.
were having a zombie episode. Like 100%, I was hoping for
I
a
wish,
zombie episode.
but I'm not even sure off the top of my head who Demos's voice actor was, but whoever he was, um, did an absolutely amazing job with him, because it's just so he hits his lines so perfectly.
Well, the reason why the cave scene is my most favorite part of it is the scream. Do you know when he gets jumped at by
Okay, fair.
is it the woman Dramian? Because the cry, and I think it's either a
Yeah,
child or a woman by the sounds of it. But that
I
scream is amazing.
yes, that scream is absolutely um. Oh, it's Lou Scheimer actually, one of the co-founders of Filmation, who was the voice.
Okay,
Interesting.
cool. But yes,
Um,
then we meet a survivor of the plague. Is it
yes,
Tolkar? Tolkar? Is that right?
Koltai,
It's Koltai.
Koltai,
Koltai. Accent.
and thankfully this is one where Shatner, even though he was in New York, got the pronunciation for once. And yeah, we'll get into that. But um, you know, the fact that Koltai shows up, it feels logical. It's not a Deus Ex Machina moment.
Yeah, it's not like they've just pulled it out their ass and it's just that oh, we need someone to save the day. It's very, very
Yes.
logical, and how they do it is the fact that he was off world at the time of the
No,
plague.
he wasn't. He was on world. Koltai was there.
Oh, but he
It's the guy
says
who attacked. It's that the guy
right.
who attacked them and the woman and others were off world 19 years ago.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
And they came back to seeing basically everyone but Koltai and like a handful of others dead.
Oh, right. Well, I very much
And
misunderstood what was going on in that scene then.
no.
There would be
Koltai,
loads of red corpses,
Koltai,
wouldn't there?
yeah. But Koltai came back. Koltai was there. He had been inoculated for Saurian virus.
Right.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's something you get from drinking too much Saurian brandy. But um, he was inoculated for Saurian virus and somehow lived, even though everyone around him was dying, which makes you wonder about that inoculation program
I mean,
and
this is
why people were getting what they got. But hey,
probably not the time and the
but
place to
we're
discuss
getting,
that.
yeah.
But
Um,
moving quickly on, and they manage
yes.
to get the
But then
guy back to the ship.
yes, but I do want to get one line before he gets on the ship.
Okay.
Another one from the Dramians, a great line. A man who heals does not also kill.
Hmm.
Don't
Another
agree with
one of
that.
those. Yeah. Well, oh well. In this case, it makes sense, and especially for Bones, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, because even Demos, sort of softens at that moment. And
Yeah.
then we go back up to the ship and pass back through the Aurora.
Oh yeah, because he does his little smile as well, doesn't he? He's like
Yeah, right.
his little pug
But we
smile.
exactly. But we return back to the through the Aurora, and we have a scene in sick bay where Koltai is being taken care of.
Yes.
And then Demos looks in with shock. What? Does that shock you that we actually care about everyone?
Yeah, and this is the kind of
No.
part that I was like, oh, okay, this is his turning point. This is the part where he's gonna realize that actually the Enterprise crew are all right. They're not totally the bad guys that he's been led to believe.
And then the camera flips back, and Kirk has turned blue.
Yes.
And
Yes. Everyone is
um,
then kind of turning
yes,
blue.
yes, there is a bit of a montage that I, I'll be honest, I didn't have the oomph to edit the images together. I wish somebody had, um, where everyone basically except Spock turns blue.
Yeah, and how they've done this is kind of it's really kind of cool. I do like the fact that
Yes,
they haven't chosen a sort of a dark blue. They've kind of
yeah.
chosen a very, very pale one. It's not something that it's not one that I would have kind of
Mhm.
maybe chosen, but it just works really well for this episode.
It absolutely does. It's though the one that always spooks me, the image out of that montage that spooks me is seeing Uhura
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it is so weird. And this is literally in my notes. I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm going to anyway. Um, it is so weird seeing Uhura as the same color as everyone else.
Yeah. It's a little bit
Mm.
yeah, it's a little bit one of those ones that it just doesn't
Yes.
fit. And but they couldn't have changed it.
Yes. Yes, but it is so, and yet after it absolutely gets to how dire the situation is.
Yeah.
That, you know, Arix and Uhura are the same color, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
definitely
yeah,
one that probably wouldn't have been done now. They would have chosen
yeah,
a different approach to the
yeah.
the storyline. They would have chosen a different approach to the plague. It would have been very, very, very different.
I
But
don't know, but they would have done differently with the
yeah,
colors.
they
Yes.
would. I don't even think they would have chosen for it to be a change color virus or plague. I think they would have chosen a completely
Mhm.
different a completely
Fair
different
enough.
approach. They wouldn't have they. I know for a fact that people wouldn't touch this type of thing now. It's not
Yeah.
one that's overly acceptable nowadays in media. So I just can't
Yes.
imagine that they would have
Yeah.
done it.
Yes.
And Paul, I didn't want to encourage
Yeah.
anyone to turn themselves blue
Yes.
because Kris really doesn't need an
Look.
excuse.
Yes. Besides, yes. Do we need the which is it, Arrested Development reference? I blew myself. No, we don't need that. Okay.
If we thought about it, we could have. I did have a red nose before we came on stream because I found face paints about 30 minutes
Yes.
before the podcast, and me and Kris were on stream, and I did like give myself a clown nose, and he did dare me to keep it on, but I decided I was going to be professional.
Yeah.
But maybe next time.
But yes, now we get into Act 3 as things really jump in speed. Once everyone starts turning blue except Spock, they activate General Order 6
Yes.
and go back to Dramia 1.
I am so excited that we had General Order 6. I've been waiting for some
Yes.
type of General Order to be portrayed on the screen. And I love the fact it's General Order 6 because this is one of my favourite ones because it's just one of my favourite ones that I've wanted to see for a long time.
Yes.
I did want this scene to be longer. I did want it to be longer, but I did squeal the first time that I watched this because I was like, they've done General Order, because General Orders
Yep.
are so fun in Star Trek because there is no rhyme or reason to them. They are chaos, and from one season to another they change, and I love the fact. And the General Order 6
Yes.
is my favourite one because
Well,
we've never seen it go any further than this. And I really
right.
want one of these days, probably would never happen now because of 2020,
Mhm.
for the fact that it's basically, if there is no one left on board the ship after 24 hours, the ship self-destructs. And I love that concept. I love the fact that this is portrayed in the future, that even though there are still things that they think of, things that they, the technology is still there to save lives on such a massive scale. I love the concept of
Mhm.
this.
Yes. That there are still plagues and they're still worried about them. Now, obviously, we'll see other derelict ships in original series and later, but let's not go there. As you said, it doesn't go beyond here, but it's a great moment where
Yes.
Spock is literally saying, I'll blow up the Enterprise if nobody's alive on it.
Yeah.
The problem is, where would he be?
But this is why I love this concept, because Spock is literally, without saying it, he is literally thinking the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And that is literally,
Yes.
I literally can hear his brain working through the television.
Yep.
I can literally hear him
Yes.
saying that and thinking that. It's all up there. I can see it.
Agreed. And um I like the fact that when Spock goes down, and this is sort of almost presaging Star Trek 3 in this moment. And this is part of why they have the relationship that they do. That Spock is the one who breaks him out of jail.
Yes.
Um
And the fact that he refuses, McCoy refuses to go with him.
Yep.
He's like, no, I'm not going with you.
Yes.
I'm not doing this. I need my justice. I very much need my justice. What did you think of this thing,
and
Kris?
it's like, yeah.
What, the breaking him out of jail?
Yeah.
Yes. I liked it to move on the story, but I thought,
Yeah.
do you know what, in that scene of the do you know when you see the dressed up people in the World War II uniform going, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that. I thought, well, no, this doesn't seem right, but I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, and it was.
And I mean, as
Go.
go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go.
Okay, I was going to say that in that moment, a jailbreak is the least bad thing they could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of half expecting, as they were trying to beam back to the ship, that Kirk would have succumbed to his like illness.
I was so waiting for that.
They would not have been able to get back. That was kind of what I was thinking was going to happen, but I was like, no, that can't happen. They've literally got 5 minutes left of this episode. That is not going to happen. And then obviously they come back to the ship, and they are on the ship, and McCoy is like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. I need the Vulcan to help me. And you've got the scenes with McCoy in sickbay, and then you've got Spock on the bridge, which I find really kind of funny. I was like, so why isn't he in a science lab? But then I was like, oh, okay, well actually no, he is the only person left that can actually pilot the ship.
Yes.
Yeah. So that, and then I was like, okay, Rebecca, roll back. Because you are wrong here. This is 100% you being wrong, and this is you thinking with the wrong part of your brain, and there is a logical reason why he's there. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, I love that in spite of the fact that McCoy and Spock have their ongoing, mishigas, that as soon as there's a crisis, they are just absolutely focused and there. We need to cure this. I tell you what the symptoms are. You plug them into the computer. I do what I can. You do what you do. And these two highly intelligent, highly skilled men put aside all their personal grievances, all of their nonsense, and it is professional.
Yeah.
And it is dead on. And I love that about that moment. The thing I don't love is the person who actually figures out what's going on.
This was the most annoying part of this episode. I am so angry.
Go for it. Go for it.
Mm-mm.
No.
I think Kris should, because he looks like he's the calmest out of all of us.
No.
That's true.
Go for it.
Kris. No.
Why did Kirk figure it out? Why did Kirk have to be the hero? Why could not the Doctor or the scientist be the hero? This is why. This is going on the list to rewrite for this reason.
Thank you.
This reason solely because I'm angry
now, Yes. I mean, I have no problem with Kirk sort of being the Watson to the Holmes.
Yes.
And giving the clue. But why was he the one to actually figure it out?
100%. 100%.
But it's still, I mean, even so, if they had rewritten it slightly, it would have been fine. But this is, the end of the episode is great because they solve it, and the Dramians realize that they had been wrong.
Yes, and this is one of these episodes that I think is amazing for the fact that it was shown in the 60s, because it's not necessarily.
Well, actually, this is
70s. Sorry, it's a well-known fact that sometimes people don't like to admit they're wrong, and I think the fact that it was shown then, when that wasn't necessarily a big concept for people, in media, in television shows, to show that they were wrong, I think it's amazing, and I really like the fact that it was shown that this person, this species, could be wrong and they could move on. And yeah, I think it's just amazing that was shown in media in the 70s, because that didn't happen. Big countries and media empires, they didn't say that they were wrong. They just carried on and ignored issues, and the fact that this was shown, I appreciate that.
Very much so. Very much so. And yeah, and then we have the ending, which I have this problem with the ending.
Okay.
I love it, and I hate that it's in this episode.
It's the fact that it's the meme, isn't it?
It's the meme, and also it's this episode, because we get the meme.
Yes. We
get the wisecracking between Spock and McCoy.
Yeah.
But in an episode that includes the lines, "Plagues seldom leave behind fields of flowers," and that the distinction between insider and outsider here is the world of the living and the world of the walking dead.
Yes.
To then close with Spock going, "You have been somewhat derelict in your duties of late," and McCoy going, "Next time I'm in prison, don't send that Vulcan to get me out. Let me rot."
Yes, but I also have a theory on why. Because I don't believe they expected it to become such as big as that. Who would have thought 40 years down the line that this single scene, this single image
Mhm.
would become a meme? I
True.
don't think it was ever expected to become a bit of a cultural phenomenon that he did, to be
Agreed.
honest.
I I
But
agree with you completely.
that leads us to the scores, because I haven't asked you both your scores yet
You
because
have not yet.
because we are still getting back into doing Fleetcast Live. We are still getting back to doing reviews. And me and Kris literally just finished watching this episode an hour ago. So there was no time.
So,
But
so let's start
Kris,
with the two of you then.
no,
Yeah.
I don't get a score because these scores are out of 10. So this is Kris, what is your
10.
score first
Out of 10, do you
out
say?
of 5?
Out of
Out of
five
5.
for us, each of us.
Can I do points?
If you want.
If you must.
Uh, no, I won't then. I'm going to give it a 3. So kind of
Okay.
middle of the road,
Mm-hmm.
a bit above though.
Okay.
I was going to respond to Endy's point as well with the ending where you were saying it was too humorous for lines like that. I thought
Yeah.
it needed it to contrast the bit of a dire, depressing part of it, like the disease, the hundreds of people dying from the plague, the
Yeah.
people who live in absolute caves and that. I think it needed that to contrast it, where to say, it's all right, man, don't worry.
That's a really
Fair
good point.
enough.
That is a really good point,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
And
that
that's
is
how I
valid.
justify it in my head, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a
It
really
might be
Yeah.
good
copium.
That's might be, but
no.
that's valid, and I see where you're coming from, and I kind of agree. My score is a 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay, so
Like I said, it's jumped up.
this is a high scoring episode then.
Yeah. This is a 7 out of 10 for us. Um, and Becca, if you want to throw in the extra 3, that's up to you.
No. This is how we keep things sane, and we do not become chaos
Wait,
gremlins. Like
wait. Us sane, not Chaos
yeah,
Gremlins? Since
no.
when?
Because I've got a friend who runs a podcast. No, sorry, a web series
Yes.
called Top Grumps, and they are
All
my.
right.
And have you heard of it, Kris?
That's a bit crap, isn't it?
Out of 5, why not 11, Lee? Because
That is the other chaos
what-
gremlin from Top
yes,
Grumps.
yes. Yeah.
That's why he's here. And yes, very much. I will. All our scores
Yes.
are always out of 10. We
Yes.
are going to be doing a recap because
well,
we've taken
yes.
so long to do this series. We are going to be doing a quick recap of going through every episode, every score that we've done.
Yes.
Just to go over it because we've only
We
got
absolutely need to do that.
yeah because we've only got 2 more episodes of this series, and then we're
Well,
going to do the
there is
recap.
one thing that I would, and actually, I'd like to do one thing when we do the recap, because this is one where I'm going to have to stream it to the two of you on Discord. There is a sort of making of documentary.
Okay.
Once again, flaunting my physical media, as I'm. Oh, right. I've got a white wall. I keep forgetting that. White wall, white case.
You wanted
Oops.
space.
Right. But the um, but there is a making of documentary on
Okay,
here
that would be interesting.
that I would love to.
So we've got 4 more episodes then of this
Yep.
series, and then that is the end of this series, and then we are
Yep.
gonna recap
Into the original series.
Yes, we're gonna see what happens, see where we go, because we've got a few
All right.
ideas that are lined up. The things of like different things that we want to do now. I think now that we've
Yes.
kind of got a handle on how systems work, and Kris is now doing amazing doing his spotlights.
Yes, absolutely, Kris. Thank you for doing those.
We're gonna see how things are, and I think we're gonna all get together and have a little chat. But I think for now, have you guys got any final points for this episode that you want to say to the
Um,
people?
just think about this the next time that the world has a crisis. That's all I can say. That's about it for me. Is that yeah.
I would say that the animated series is on Netflix. It's 23 minutes an episode.
Yep.
It's worth a watch, even if you don't like it.
Absolutely.
You're wasting 23 minutes. I've had longer poos than that. So it's
I am inclined to agree. I'm inclined to agree, but I went out and bought the thing, so what can I say? The only series I don't have any of on disc is the Quantum Leap episode. The holodeck Quantum Leap episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, whether you watch it on Netflix, whether you get it on media, whatever you do, yeah, seek it out. This episode is great. You can go back through our reviews and see some of the ones that you might have liked. Yesteryear is still a classic. This is what Trek was in the 70s before the movie. This is what we got instead of Phase 2. So definitely, please.
I think I prefer this to what we potentially would have got at Phase 2. I think this is I'm really enjoying this little journey watching the animated series. But for now, I will ask everyone to drop us a like, drop us a proper comment, because we love proper comments in the the comments section. Just leave us what you've liked, what you haven't liked, any feedback, whether you like how we are formatting this, whether you like the images, just let us know. And for now, stay lovely, stay logical, and I will catch you all on the